So a lot of people think that Bitcoin can be compared to the total amount of fiat currency in the world. So, the total amount of fiat currency is about 100 trillion, but Bitcoin is actually a base money. So it's the final settlement layer, it's a bearer asset, and so it's actually not really comparable to the total supply of fiat money, because fiat money is comprised of both fiduciary media and the base money. And so Bitcoin is more like the bank reserves that are held by the central bank. And when we actually add up all the bank reserves in the world, that's closer to about $29 trillion. Other base monies historically were gold, silver. Bitcoin actually surpassed silver as a base money during the last all-time high. And basically, if we were to ask the question, if Bitcoin were to replace the base money held by the central banks and the banks that hold their accounts with the central banks, Bitcoin would have a value of about $1.4 million. One question is, why hasn't it become base money yet? The answer is that Bitcoin is really volatile, right? We all know that Bitcoin's volatility is higher than any fiat pair, euro to USD. Bitcoin won't become base money until the volatility of Bitcoin in a trading pair like USD to Bitcoin is lower than any other fiat pair. And the reason for that is because as a unit of account and a medium of exchange, you need to have an asset that has a stable purchasing power, right? So essentially, if we look at the compound average growth rate of the volatility of Bitcoin with the US dollar or Bitcoin with the euro or Bitcoin with other fiat currency trading pairs, we see that over time the volatility is decreasing. Likewise, we see with fiat trading pairs that actually volatility has been increasing, like over the last 5 years, for example, between the pound and the dollar, the euro and the pound, etc. So if you were just to forecast out the compound average growth rate of the volatility on Bitcoin with the US dollar versus the volatility of euro with the US dollar, those two lines intersect in 2028, so basically in 5 years from now. And that's when we might have an inflection point upon which Bitcoin will become the global base money. That's also sometimes referred to as hyper-Bitcoinization. And it's only going to be adopted if the volatility comes down lower than the least volatile trading pair out there. I mean, technology is unstoppable. It's always moving. And right now, of course, the whole world has had higher interest rates because of central banks. So the everything bubble, insecurities, bonds, Bitcoin, it got pricked. And so we have a deflationary period in asset prices. But this is all just central bank manipulation of the economy. However, every day, more people are using Bitcoin. Like every day, there's more and more people onboarding to using Bitcoin. They're onboarding to using digital assets, stable coins. And over time, that quorum of people is going to grow so large that one day it's just going to flick a switch and the whole world is going to be using this asset. So it takes time, for sure. It takes decades, potentially. If we look at any old technology like the car, electricity, the mobile phone, internet, it wasn't an immediate adoption curve. Some followed an S curve, some were more exponential, but we definitely have to, be patient with the monetary cycles, that wane the interest. Right now, because Bitcoin's not stable, a lot of people aren't going to use it to pay for a coffee, but they will use it to store value, like over time. So it's kind of more of like right now, it's a generational wealth vehicle to pass on to your heirs. But it's not going to become adopted as a medium of exchange until the volatility is lower than the volatility of the fiat currency, right? Because, for example, if I buy something with Bitcoin today, like actually a couple years ago, I bought a hair blow dryer, and that hair blow dryer cost me $20,000, right? In today's terms of Bitcoin, because I paid for it with Bitcoin. It's the most valuable, non-confiscatable asset that the world has ever seen. And so it's going to take a long time before people are actually basing prices in the economy on Bitcoin. But one day we will think, and prices will all be priced in Bitcoin of all goods and services. But it's just a matter of everyone right now, like few people, they're gonna dollar cost average in every month. They take their paycheck, they put 100 Swissies into Bitcoin. Over time, they tell their relatives about it. And then once all of us have a wallet on our phone, we know how to use Lightning Network or another, layer 2 solution. Eventually, we're gonna be that critical mass that it takes. And then one day it's just gonna inflection point and hyper-Bitcoinization. And what's interesting about the model that I've made that shows the volatility of fiat meeting the volatility of Bitcoin in 2028 is that that's also when the next Bitcoin halving is. So we have one coming up next year, 2024, but then the one after that's 2028. So 2028 is gonna be a super cycle for Bitcoin.